The world watches in horror. From the Gaza Strip to the heart of Ukraine, conflict rages. The Democratic Republic of Congo remains a festering wound. These are not isolated incidents. They are symptoms of a world grappling with deep-seated tensions. These conflicts, though geographically diverse, share common threads. They are fueled by a complex web of political ambition, economic interests, and historical grievances. In Gaza, the Israel-Palestine conflict continues to claim lives. The recent escalation, marked by the targeted killing of a Hamas leader, has brought renewed international pressure for a ceasefire. However, the underlying issues remain unresolved, leaving the region trapped in a cycle of violence. Meanwhile, in Eastern Europe, the war in Ukraine grinds on. Russia's invasion has shattered the peace and triggered a humanitarian catastrophe. Millions have been displaced. Cities lie in ruins. The conflict has also exposed the fault lines in global security, raising fears of a wider conflict. The DRC, often overlooked, faces its own devastating conflict. Years of fighting between government forces and armed groups have left millions dead and displaced. The situation is further complicated by the involvement of neighboring countries and the exploitation of the region's vast mineral resources. These conflicts, though unique in their specifics, highlight a worrying trend. The increasing militarization of global affairs. The world seems to be returning to a state of constant conflict, with devastating consequences for human life and global stability. To understand war, one must look beyond the battlefield. At the heart of every conflict lie psychological factors that drive nations and individuals to choose violence. One such factor is the fear and insecurity that arise in a multipolar world. As global power becomes more diffuse, traditional alliances crumble and new ones emerge. This shifting landscape creates uncertainty and can lead to a dangerous scramble for dominance. Another driver is the pervasive belief in military solutions. Too often, dialogue and diplomacy are sidelined in favor of military action. This over-reliance on force ignores the underlying causes of conflict, creating a vicious cycle of violence. When nations prioritize military might over peaceful resolutions, war becomes not just a possibility but a self-fulfilling prophecy. But who benefits from this perpetual state of war? While many suffer, a select few profit handsomely. Military aid recipients like Israel receive billions of dollars in funding, often with little accountability for how these funds are used. Weapons producers, from major corporations to smaller arms manufacturers, reap enormous profits from the global arms trade. Their lobbying efforts ensure a steady supply of weapons, further fueling the flames of conflict. Investors and shareholders in these companies also benefit, their portfolios growing as the bombs fall. This creates a perverse incentive structure, where financial gain is prioritized over human life. The business of war is a lucrative one, and as long as profits are to be made, there will always be those who seek to perpetuate conflict. The world is witnessing a seismic shift in the global power balance. The unipolar moment, dominated by the United States, is fading. Rising powers like China and Russia are challenging the established order, leading to increased competition and tension on the world stage. This power struggle plays out in conflict zones like Ukraine and Gaza. China, with its growing economic and military might, seeks to expand its influence, particularly in Asia and Africa. Russia, feeling threatened by NATO expansion, has resorted to military force to assert its dominance in its near abroad. The US, while still a formidable power, is struggling to adapt to this new reality. Its foreign policy, often characterized by interventionism, is being questioned both domestically and internationally. This multipolar world is fertile ground for proxy wars. Regional conflicts become entangled with the broader geopolitical ambitions of these global powers. They arm and support different factions, turning local conflicts into international battlegrounds. The war in Ukraine is a prime example, with Western countries providing military aid to Ukraine while Russia receives support from countries like Iran. Amidst this geopolitical chess game, the humanitarian cost of these conflicts is staggering. Millions are displaced, facing hunger, disease, and violence. The international community's response, while well-intentioned, often falls short. Aid organizations are stretched thin, struggling to cope with the overwhelming needs. The focus on high-profile conflicts like Ukraine further exacerbates the situation, diverting resources and attention from other equally deserving crises. The human cost of war extends far beyond the immediate casualties. The trauma of conflict leaves deep scars on individuals, families, and entire societies. Generations grow up amidst violence, their futures shaped by the horrors they have witnessed. The destruction of infrastructure cripples economies, setting back development by decades. The social fabric of nations is torn apart, leaving behind a legacy of division and mistrust. While the world's attention is focused on the high-profile conflicts in Ukraine and Gaza, countless other crises simmer beneath the surface. The ongoing conflict in Sudan, the brutal crackdown in Myanmar, the escalating violence in the DRC. These tragedies receive a fraction of the media coverage and international attention. This lack of attention has real-world consequences. It allows perpetrators to act with impunity. It hinders humanitarian aid efforts. It condemns millions to suffer in silence. The claim that Samsung, the South Korean tech giant, is a weapons producer, while unsubstantiated, highlights another disturbing aspect of modern warfare: the blurring of lines between civilian and military technologies. As technology advances, so too does its potential for both good and evil. Companies that produce seemingly innocuous products like smartphones or drones can easily become entangled in the global arms trade, whether intentionally or unintentionally. The world stands at a crossroads. The path we choose today will determine the future of humanity. Will we continue down the road of endless war, where profits are prioritized over people and might makes right, or will we choose the path of peace, dialogue, and cooperation? The answer, as always, lies within ourselves.